The State Board of Education has fulfilled its mandate to pay for public education by directing nearly $3 billion to the legislative budget riders. The Texas Constitution requires this money to be spent on instructional materials and educational programs. Recognizing the state's unique deficit this year, the State Board has provided almost 6 times that amount of money needed for the instructional materials. Nonetheless, Texas students remain in jeopardy of not getting their instructional materials.
We have a $600 million bill, but we've sent over $3 billion. Always stress we're probably the only entity in Texas that says, here's our bill, $600 million, here's the money to pay for that bill, and here's an additional $2.4 billion that must be used for education in Texas. What happened at the November meeting was all 15 members, Democrat, Republican, urban, rural, signed the same letter saying, again, we're sending $3 billion, but $600 million is part of the bill we have for textbooks. We've asked the legislature, the House and the Senate to buy the books.
Well, constitutionally, you can use those funds for 2 purposes. One is for the purpose of buying instructional materials or textbooks, and the other is the per capita allotment in the school finance formulas. So you have 2 competing interests when the State Board sends over funds for the legislatures. We have a policy reason to push for the purchase of instructional materials this time because we're moving to end-of-course exams, and we want to make sure our students have those materials in hand before we test them. We want to make sure that the students have those instructional materials. It's essential. One of the things you want to make sure is that you are aligned between your curriculum standards, your instructional materials, your professional development, and your assessment system. A misalignment of those could wind up in litigation, first of all, and secondly, it's just not the right thing for kids.
Texas is unique. We may be the only state that has an endowment set aside just for our kids. We call it, it's called the Permanent School Fund, but it's known as the Children's Textbook Fund. And again, it's the second largest endowment in the United States, second only to Harvard. There's no textbook tax. There's no money out there for a tax for books. It's money that's put aside as an endowment that was $2 million in 1850. Now it's $22.6 billion. So we have money, and our constitutional responsibility on the State Board of Education is to help keep raising the fund, have it grow, but provide funds to make sure our kids in Texas have free textbooks.